The great starship Dahan drifted in the blackness of space, its hull reflecting distant starlight. Inside, Admiral Jinwoo stood on the bridge, looking at the display screens. He felt a mixture of pride and worry. This was the moment the humans had waited for, their return to Earth after 3,000 years. Jinwoo remembered the stories he had heard as a child. Tales of a ruined planet, of blue oceans that turned to dust, of green forests that died. His ancestors had fled, escaping in fragile ships when Earth was no longer safe. Now, generations later, their descendants had grown strong. The New Han Republic had built a mighty fleet, trained its people in science and war, and prepared for this moment. Near him, Yejin, the xenobiologist, read data from probes that the Dahan had sent ahead. She had long studied alien life, and she carried in her mind both hope and fear. The report from the last probe was strange. Signs of life, yes, but not just simple life. Biostructures, as though entire cities were grown, living like organisms. A soft chime sounded. Inho, a young pilot with sharp eyes and steady hands, entered the bridge. His uniform was crisp, his face calm but eager. He saluted Jinwoo. "All systems ready, Admiral," he said. He had flown many training missions, but this was his first descent mission. He felt his heart beat a little faster than he admitted. At another console, Minasio, the diplomat, watched them both. She had traveled from one of the farthest human colonies, carrying messages, treaties, and warnings. She knew that not all human voices agreed on what to do. Some wanted war. Some wanted peace. Some wanted to hide their true strength, so that the aliens would not expect them. She frowned as she tapped on her datapad. On the observation deck, people gathered to watch the star-filled void. Children who had never seen Earth, scientists who studied distant stars, soldiers who trained for a fight. The deck was calm, but the air was heavy with expectation. Everyone knew what this mission meant. Jinwoo turned from the deck and moved back to the bridge. He saw Yejin's screen, images of Earth or Avernus Prime, as they now called it. The planet was green in places, but the shape was wrong. Valleys, but not the same rivers. Mountains, but with odd ridges that seemed grown, not carved. Yejin spoke quietly. "These are biostructures. Not metal, not stone. They are alive in some way." Her voice was steady, but Jinwoo heard the wonder in it. Inho leaned over her shoulder. "So this is not just rebuilding. They are growing something new." Minasio came close, joining them at the data terminal. She studied the images, worried lines on her forehead. If they are growing life, who made it? And why? Is this a threat or a gift? Jinwoo nodded. "That is why we came. We must find out." He walked to the command chair. His boots clicked softly across the deck. He rested his hand on the armrest, steadying himself. He spoke into the silence of the bridge. "Set a course for the planet. Bring us into orbit slowly. I do not want to alarm anything down there." The helmsman confirmed, and the ship shifted its path. Outside, stars drifted past as the Dahan moved toward its final destination. In the war room, Jinwoo, Yejin, Inho, and Minasio met with senior officers. A holographic map glowed, showing the planet's surface with strange patterns, spiral shapes, vine-like lines, circles that pulsed softly. The room was quiet as they studied it. Yejin pointed to a region near an equator. "This area seems particularly active. Biological growth is denser there. It may be a center of whatever is controlling the terraforming." She swallowed. "We should send a small team to scout first." Jinwoo rubbed his chin. He weighed the risk. Sending a small team meant they would be vulnerable, but going all in might provoke hostility. He said softly, "Inho, I want you to lead the scout team. You know the landing protocols. Yejin, you will go with him. Minasio, stay with us and run communications. We may need to speak to whoever is in charge." Inho nodded, his heart pounding but his voice calm. "I will do my best." Yejin gave him a small, supportive smile. Even though they had known each other only a short while, they had built trust. She believed in his skills, and he believed in her science. Minasio flicked on a secure channel. "I will report to the New Han Republic fleet. They are waiting for messages. We cannot act alone in this." Jinwoo leaned forward. Do not show them everything. We cannot reveal all our strength. If this is hostile, we need the element of surprise. If it is peaceful, we need to look like we want to heal, not to fight. The officers exchanged glances. This was not a simple mission. That night, in his quarters, Jinwoo stood by the window. He looked out at the darkness and thought of Earth, of what it had been and what it might become. He felt the weight of his ancestors on his shoulders. He whispered, "We will make this right." Elsewhere, Yejin lay on her bed, staring at the ceiling. She thought of the alien life she might meet, the alien minds, the alien cities. She felt both fear and hope. What if they welcomed humans? What if they hated them? What if their love for Earth was twisted? In-ho checked his gear, his suit, his helmet, his small weapons. He practiced in his mind the run he would make, the descent, the landing, the first steps on Avernus. His hands trembled a little, but he steadied them. He said quietly to himself, "This is for home." Min Seo sat at her desk, writing a message to her family, to the leaders of the New Han Republic. She typed carefully, choosing words to hide fear. She wrote, "We are coming with open hands and ready hearts. May they listen." Morning came aboard the Daehan. The ship's engines hummed with power as they dropped into the planet system. The viewports filled with green and blue swirling clouds, strange landmasses, and glowing patches that looked alive. The whole crew watched in silent awe. Jinwoo stood at the front, Yejin by his side, and Ho and Min Seo close behind. They felt history turning under their feet. 3,000 years of waiting, but now they were here. The Dian's landing shuttles undocked. Small craft that gleamed against the background of the planet. In-ho and Yejin boarded one shuttle, their team small but ready. The engines flared and the shuttle separated, diving toward the planet. Inside the shuttle, Yejin checked her instruments. The air outside was not breathable yet. The life forms below gave off strange signals, biowaves, not like any atmosphere she had measured before. Her brow furrowed, but she was excited. This was real first contact with a living planet. In-ho piloted steadily, his hands firm on the controls. He steered between floating biolattices, huge, vine-like structures that hung in the sky like alien trees. Below him, the surface glowed with soft, green light. Suddenly, alarms rang. The shuttle jolted. "What is that?" Yejin asked, alarm in her voice. In-ho looked through the viewport. He saw a network of tendrils rising, living cables of light, reaching out to them. The biostructures moved as though alive. The shuttle shook again. In-ho took a deep breath. "Brace," he said. He adjusted the thrust, pulling up slightly, trying to avoid the moving tendrils. On the Daehan, Jinwoo watched the connection. He held his breath. He did not know whether to call them back. But he saw something beautiful in the chaos, not just danger. Yejin whispered, "They are curious." The shuttle carrying In-ho and Yejin rose in a strange living plane, breaking away from the soft pulse of the planet. In-ho guided the small craft carefully between thick, vine-like tendrils that stretched like arms in the sky. The lights of their instruments glowed softly as they climbed. Inside, Yejin watched as her scanners picked up ever more detailed signals. The patterns were hard to read, biowave readings that pulsed like a heartbeat, then slowed, then grew again. She frowned. "They are alive in a way we have never known," she whispered. Her voice carried both excitement and fear. In-ho nodded. "Yes, we are not just on an alien world. We are walking into someone's living dream." They kept climbing until they broke through a misty layer of atmosphere. Below them, they could see the shapes of more biostructures, towers that glowed softly, tendrils twisting like vines, large domes that pulsed as though breathing. Some of the structures looked like trees, but they were enormous and thick. Others curved like ribs or arches, as if the city itself was a body. Jinwoo watched their shuttle approach from the orbiting Daehan. He breathed a little easier when he saw them navigating safely, but his hand rested on his sidearm. He did not fully trust what they would find below. Min Seo sat nearby at a communications console. Her face was tense. She sent a quiet message to the New Han Republic fleet. "We are descending. Be ready to stand by. No action until we confirm intent." She chose her words carefully. Too much aggression now could turn this mission into a war already. Back in the shuttle, In-ho and Yejin landed softly in a clearing. The ground under them trembled gently, as if curious. A soft green light spread out from their landing point, bathing the shuttle in a gentle glow. The plants nearby pulsed in response, as though they were aware of the new visitors. Yejin stepped out first. She carried a small pack with her tools, sensors, recording devices, and a portable module that could analyze biological energy. She knelt down, placing one of her sensors on the ground. The device hummed. The ground beneath seemed to respond, sending gentle waves back into the sensor. Yejin's eyes widened. She touched the soil with her gloved fingers. It felt warm and alive, not hot, but vibrant. She closed her eyes, listening to the rhythm. In-ho stood beside her, surveying the strange city. He saw structures rising like arches, but made of fibers that glowed softly. Some parts of the walls bent and shifted, as though breathing. Other parts were rigid, but not like metal. They looked like living tissue. Yejin whispered, "I did not expect buildings like this. These are not stone or steel. They are living things." She pointed to a large dome a little way off. It was big, maybe as tall as a mountain, and its surface pulsed like a heart. Strange luminescent vines covered it, weaving in and out, forming patterns that looked like cities. In-ho frowned at the vines. "They might be watching us," he said quietly, "or learning from us." They advanced slowly, their boots pressing into the soft ground. Every step made gentle vibrations. The plants nearby swayed, and some of them changed color. Bioluminescent tendrils curled toward them, but not aggressively, more in curiosity. It was like the planet was alive and aware of them. Suddenly, a figure emerged from behind one of the living towers. It was tall, slender, and made of a strange fibrous material. It had no clear face, but soft glows of color moved along its form, like veins of light. The being did not speak, but its shape moved slowly, smoothly, as if greeting them. Yejin took a breath. She raised her sensor and spoke softly. "We come in peace. We are humans. We have returned." Her voice echoed strangely in the quiet. The alien figure tilted, as though listening. Then other figures appeared. They were similar, though not all identical. Some were more tree-like, some more slender and vine-like. Their forms shifted, slowly bending, glowing in patterns. The air around them felt alive, as though even the space between them pulsed. In-ho held his breath. He stayed very still, not wanting to provoke them. He watched as one of the beings extended a vine-like limb toward Yejin's sensor. Then it paused and pulled back. Yejin's device sent a soft beep. Yejin read the measurements. They are sending signals back. The biowaves. It feels like they are communicating in life. She glanced at In-ho. They speak through their biology. In-ho nodded. "We must be careful. They are not just plants. They are intelligent. Very different, but alive." Jinwoo watched the shuttle's feed from orbit. He saw the glowing beings, their delicate movements. He felt both awe and tension. "Do not make sudden moves," he said softly into the comm. "Try to communicate. Let them know we are not a threat." "Min Seo," relayed the message down. She watched the feed too, her heart beating fast. This was not just a mission. This was history. On the ground, Yejin crouched and placed a small tablet on the soil. She hoped this device could translate or record whatever these beings offered. She tapped a few buttons, sending a simple greeting signal. Pictures of human faces, of Earth, of their home. She watched as the nearest being watched her back, its form bending and glowing in response. In-ho stepped forward slowly. He raised his hand in a gesture of peace. The alien nearest him bent too, a soft glow brightening. It touched its limb to In-ho's hand for a moment, then retracted. In-ho held his breath. A pulse ran through the ground. The fiber walls of the structures around them rippled as though breathing. A gentle sound filled the air, not words, but a hum, like a living chord. Yejin felt it in her chest. She closed her eyes and concentrated. She had studied alien biology, but never expected something like this. The signals she recorded were not mechanical. They were rhythmic, organic, alive. She whispered. They expressed themselves in living waves, not in spoken language. Inho nodded. They are communicating in life. Their city, their bodies, all of it is a message. One of the beings extended a vine toward the shuttle, then curled back. Another glowed brighter at its tip. Yejin raised her tablet, and a soft image projected. A circle surrounded by lines, like a symbol. The being seemed to understand. Its glow shifted, and it produced a pattern of light in response, like a living symbol. Yejin smiled. She felt a thrill. They make symbols with their bodies. That is their speech. The beings in the clearing began to move, slowly, surrounding them but not threatening. Their vine limbs swayed. Yejin and Inho stood at the edge of the pulsing dome structure, their hearts pounding. The living architecture loomed above them, glowing softly, its surface rippling like a massive creature breathing. The vine-like limbs that curled from it whispered in the quiet air, as though the dome itself was alive and curious. Inho kept his hand near his side, ready, but he did not raise a weapon. He trusted Yejin's instincts. Yejin raised her small scanner. The device vibrated gently as it measured the life force of the dome. The readings were strange, not like any life she had studied before. There was a rhythm, a deep, slow heartbeat, or something close to it. She knelt down, placing her palm on the structure's surface. It felt warm, soft, and strangely welcoming. A tendril of the dome slipped forward, uncoiling and touching her hand. She felt a soft pulse under her glove. She closed her eyes for a moment, breathing in slowly, letting the sensation wash over her. Inho watched her, awed. His chest rose and fell. He felt like he was touching something ancient, something wise. Suddenly, a new presence made itself known. More of those tall, fibrous beings emerged, stepping out from behind the vine arches. Their bodies shifted in slow motion, glowing in patterns of green, blue, and pale violet. They looked at Yejin and Inho, and the light on their bodies formed shapes that reminded Yejin of symbols. The air hummed softly as they moved, like a chorus of living voices. Yejin spoke quietly, her voice steady. We wish to understand. We come without harm. She held up her scanner so they could see it. One of the beings bent toward her, its glowing veins forming a spiral. It seemed to echo a symbol she had drawn earlier on her tablet. She smiled. That means peace, she said softly. Inho nodded, stepping forward with careful steps. He reached out, but did not touch. The being closest to him curled a slender vine limb and touched his forearm gently. Inho froze. For a moment, he was afraid. But then he relaxed. The touch was not painful, just warm, like a gentle breeze. The ground vibrated under his boots. A low hum rose through the vine arches. The dome structure shifted slightly, the surface rippling like skin. Yejin looked up. Inho followed her gaze. At the top of the dome, a part of the structure opened slowly, like a petal unfolding. Inside, a soft glow shone. Light spilled gently out, forming an archway. Through it, Yejin saw something she did not expect. A vast inner chamber. The walls were made of the same living material, but more refined, like the inside of a giant nerve cell. Bioluminescent fibers ran along the walls, pulsing in patterns. A figure stepped out of that inner chamber. This being was more complex than the others. Its form was graceful, with long vine arms and a head that glowed like a soft lantern. Its face seemed to be made of living fibers, and in the glow Yejin thought she saw something like eyes. The being raised a limb in greeting. Yejin swallowed, but raised her hand in response. Inho mirrored her. The being's glow shifted, making a pattern that seemed warm, calming. Jinwoo watched them on the shuttle feed from orbit. His face was tense. He could see the dome open. He saw the glowing figure step out. He signaled Minesio, who leaned close to her console. She whispered, "That is a leader, I think." Jinwoo nodded. "Yes, be ready." He paused. "But no weapons yet. Let them speak first." Back on the ground, Yejin took a slow breath, then spoke. "We are humans. We come back to our home. We want to know who you are." Her voice carried across the gentle hum of living matter. The glowing being responded with a wave of light. The pattern on its body shifted, then paused. Yejin's tablet lit up. She had programmed it to record and translate simple symbol pulses. She watched the translation in real time. We are virant. We are keepers. We grow. We heal. Yejin's eyes widened. She glanced at Inho, then nodded. We know the story of Earth. We know we destroyed it. We fled. Now, after 3,000 years, we return. We want to learn, not to destroy. The virant being pulsed more strongly, its glow brighter. Its vine arms moved in a slow, graceful dance. Then a soft vibration echoed through the ground. The surrounding beings bent and moved in unison, as though accepting her words. Inho felt a tear on his cheek. He did not hide it. This was not just a mission. For him, it was a return. He whispered, "We belong here." Yejin placed her hand on the ground again. The energy under her palm was strong and alive. She closed her eyes. Her mind felt full of images. Green forests, healing rivers, broken cities, and new life growing. She whispered, "You are restoring. You're not just growing your own world, but helping us heal what we lost." The leading virant being drifted closer, its light soft, its movements cautious but open. It coiled a vine around itself and projected a pattern. Yejin watched the symbol. It looked like two circles connected by a line. She remembered she had drawn that earlier. But now, the virant added something. A third circle, faint but clear, connected to the first two. Yejin's heart skipped. She tapped on her tablet and drew the symbol. The being matched it. The translation flickered. New cycle. Shared life. Inho stepped forward. "A cycle together?" he said, voice trembling. "We can live together?" The being pulsed brighter. Then it bowed slightly, in a way that felt like respect. Yejin read from her tablet. "Yes, we offer new life. You may help. You may share." Yejin looked at Inho. She smiled. He smiled back, relief shining in his eyes. They had come expecting danger, but instead found possibility. One of the other virants stepped forward too. This one had a softer glow, more vine limbs. It whispered, not in words, but in waves of light. Yejin thought she felt his thoughts. But not all agree. Some of us fear change. The leading being's glow flickered gently, as though acknowledging a deep truth. Yejin tapped her tablet, and more symbols appeared. "Then let us speak. Let us learn together." Inho nodded. He said, "We will speak. We will not take by force. We want to heal. We want to build with you." The virant beings around them pulsed in answer. Some glowed brighter, others dimmed. The ground trembled softly, like a living sigh of relief. Yejin rose to her feet. She looked up at the glowing being and said, "We need to talk more. We need to know why you restored our Earth. We need to know how you worked, how you grew this life." The being nodded, slowly. Then several of the smaller beings began to move, forming a ring around them. The ring glowed softly. In its center, the ground shifted and opened, forming a gentle staircase made of living matter. The steps pulsed with light. Inho looked at Yejin, surprised, and she nodded. Together, they stepped forward and climbed the living staircase. The virant beings moved aside respectfully, guiding them upward. The glowing dome welcomed them with soft waves. It felt like walking into someone's heart. At the top, Yejin and Inho entered the inner chamber. It was vast, shaped like a shell, with walls that curved and breathed. The floor glowed like bioluminescent moss, casting soft light. The air felt warm and alive, as if every breath they took was shared with the structure. In the center stood the leading virant. Behind it, a series of arches made of vine fiber stretched upward, curving into the ceiling. From the arches, soft pulses of light traveled, like living veins. The entire chamber felt sacred, peaceful, deep. Jinwoo stood at the command deck of the Daeon, staring down at the glowing city below. The planet's surface shimmered in bioluminescent waves, but now tension filled the air on board. Messages crackled in the comm system. The New Han Republic fleet was closing in. Min Seo sat beside him, her face pale, her fingers tight on the console. "Admiral," she said softly, "they are moving ships outward. Large bodies of the virant biomass are shifting." She tapped on her screen. "They are not all peaceful. Jinwoo nodded. He felt a deep weight settle in his chest. He had hoped for a peaceful alliance, but now it seemed more complicated. He turned to look at the viewport, where enormous living ships, vessels made of the same fibrous matter as the city, were forming and rising. On the ground, In-ho and Yejin were still in the inner chamber of the dome. The Virant leader's soft glow had dimmed, replaced by a colder, sharper light. Around them, more of the vine-like beings gathered. Their shapes seemed more rigid, more aggressive. Some formed tight coils, others spread long limbs. Yejin's scanner vibrated in her hand. The readings were spiking. Life energy, but also tension, stress. She swallowed. They are very different than before. Some are hostile now, I think. In-ho pressed closer to her, watching the beings around them. He saw one vine arm raise slowly, then drop, another twine around a smaller being, as if restraining it. The hum in the air deepened, faster, harsher. A ripple passed through the interior of the dome. The walls shivered. The arches of living fibers shifted, forming new patterns. The pulsing lights changed from gentle waves to sharper pulses, like a warning. Out of the gathering, a being stepped forward. Its glow was not calm. It glowed red-gold in places, pale blue in others. Then it spoke, not with word, but in waves of light and vibration. Yejin watched, her heart pounding, as her tablet decoded the signal. You came to heal, but others among us fear your coming. In-ho swallowed. His voice was soft, but firm. We understand fear. We came to help, not to take. He raised his hands, slowly. Let us talk. Please. The Virant being held its light steady. Around them, other beings responded, some by lowering their limbs, others by stiffening. There was no war cry, no roar, only the living chorus of light. But then, in a sudden moment, the dome's surface buckled. A large section of the arch above them cracked open, and thick, vine-like tendrils shot out, reaching for In-ho and Yejin. He stumbled back, pulling Yejin with him. Yejin's scanner beeped wildly. She dropped to one knee. Try to steady it. Try to read the flux of energy around them. The tendrils curled tighter, thrumming with danger. In-ho grabbed her arm. We must leave, he said. Now. Yejin nodded, fear in her eyes, but she did not let go of her tablet. She raised it, projecting a soft spiral of light. The tendrils froze for a moment, then two of them recoiled, but others pressed forward. Jinwoo in orbit saw the alerts on his monitor. They are attacking the shuttle, he shouted. Send down a landing party. Min Seo hit the comms button. Her voice trembled. Admiral, if we fire, we risk killing them. They are part of this living world. Jinwoo shut his eyes. He knew she was right, but he had to protect his people. He nodded, half strength. Non-lethal weapons first. Show force, but not destruction. Back on the ground, In-ho looked at Yejin. The tendrils had closed in tighter. The air felt heavy, pulsing. He steadied his breath. He said quietly, They are testing us. Yejin's voice shook when she replied, Yes, they fear what we might become. She tapped her tablet and sent a new symbol. 3 spirals interlocked. The light danced. The tendrils in front of them paused. Some withdrew, but others remained. One of the more rigid Virant beings raised its glow high, projecting a sharp pattern. Yejin read, We protect ourselves. We must choose. In-ho swallowed hard. We choose peace. But you must trust us. There was a long silence. The dome glowed. The air pulsed. Then, slowly, some tendrils retracted further. The red-gold glow softened to blue. Some beings lowered their limbs. Yejin stood. She felt a rush of relief, but also sadness. She knew this was not full acceptance. This was only a moment, a decision point. Suddenly, a deep rumble came from somewhere in the ground. The floor vibrated, and the arches above twisted. A new figure emerged, larger than the rest, more complex. Its glow darker, stronger. Its vine arms were thick and tangled. In-ho and Yejin froze. The being raised its head, and its light formed a harsh, jagged pattern. Yejin's heart hammered in her chest. She tapped her tablet with shaking fingers. The translation came back. Some among us will not yield. They believe you're the past. They believe you will bring ruin. Inho stepped forward. He spoke with courage. We do not deny our past, but we do not want to repeat our mistakes. The great Virant being pulsed strongly. The ground beneath Inho trembled. He felt raw energy. Yejin placed her hand on his arm, steadying him. Behind them, the dome's arches wove tighter. The air grew thick, weighty with living power. More beings gathered, each glowing in a swirl of color. The floor pulsed like a drum. From orbit, Jinwoo watched, his voice tight. Are they going to fight? Minesio's face was tight too. She bit her lip, then nodded. Yes, I think so. Suddenly, the tendrils struck out again. This time, not a grab, but to block. They formed a wall-like barrier between Inho/Yejin and the great being. A few of the smaller Virant supported the wall, their lights bright. Inho's eyes widened. He held his ground. They are making a choice to confront, but not to kill. He turned to Yejin. We need to speak now. Yejin took a deep breath. She stepped forward, her voice steady. If you fear us, if you doubt us, let us prove ourselves. Let us help you, not just with our words, but with our work. We have knowledge. We have technology. But more than that, we have regret and a desire to make things right. The great being's glow pulsed, slowly, deeply. The arches above bent, folding in on themselves like petals closing and opening. The ground vibration slowed. Yejin held her breath as her tablet translated again. You speak of healing, but your kind once destroyed. How do we know this is not another end for us? Inho's heart tightened. He looked directly at the being, unflinching. Because we did not come alone. Because we remember. Because we feel your life. We do not want to break it. We want to share it. There was a long, tense pause. Then, the great being's glow shifted from harsh red to soft gold. The tendril wall softened and fell away. The smaller beings bent, their lights dimming respectfully. Yejin exhaled, relief washing through her. Inho closed his eyes for a moment, feeling the pressure fade. The great Virant being bent slightly, a gesture of respect. Its glow formed a spiral pattern, similar to the one Yejin had used, but deeper, more complex. Yejin watched, heart pounding. She tapped her tablet and drew the same spiral. The being matched it. The translation flickered. Then we will speak. We will open our minds. But trust must be earned. Inho nodded. We know. Yejin placed her hand on the living floor. She felt warmth, power, and something old, memory. She whispered, we will walk with you. We will learn. High above, in orbit, Jinwoo relaxed slightly, though his eyes stayed fixed on the planet. On the Daehan, silence weighed heavier than ever. Jinwoo stood at the bridge, his face lit by soft light from the view screen. Below, the living city of the Virant glowed in gentle pulses. But something was different now. The tension on the planet had risen. The treaty in the making, the fragile promise, was being tested. Minesio held the comm controls, listening to messages. Some came from the Viranta's dissenters, others from their own people. The new Han Republic fleet hovered at the edges of orbit. Every officer on board watched the feeds with nervous eyes. Jinwoo spoke quietly. We must make this right. Not by force, unless we are forced. We came to heal, not to conquer. Minesio nodded, though her voice trembled slightly. Yes, but words are not enough. They want proof. Below on the planet's surface, Inho and Yejin stood before the Virant assembly. The great being, whose glow had softened after the test of mistrust, watched them. Around them, the vine arms of other Virants swayed in a soft, living wind. Yejin raised her voice, steady but kind. We accept your fear. We know our past hurts you. But we also know that we can learn together. Not just heal, but grow. Inho nodded beside her. We will help you tend this world. We bring knowledge. We offer friendship. We will work with you, not over you. The great being's glow flickered thoughtfully. Then a wave of light pulsed out from his body, steady and warm. The translation on Yejin's tablet came. We will accept, but there is risk. Some among us may still fight. A murmur rippled among the virant assembly. Some beings lowered their arms. Others stiffened. The tension was not gone. Suddenly, the ground trembled. It was a deep, resonant vibration, like a heartbeat skipping. The domed city above them pulsed strongly, the arches bending and shifting. Tendrils rose, forming a barrier. The dissenters had begun to act. Inho reached out to Yejin, gripping her hand tightly. He said quietly, "They are not all with us." Yejin did not let go. Her eyes flicked over the assembly. She raised her tablet, projecting a spiral of light she had drawn many times now, a symbol of shared life. The light spread to the barrier, weaving among the tendrils, touching them gently. Some tendrils recoiled. Others absorbed the light, glowing in response. Inho watched, breath held, as the living barrier softened at the edges. Above, the dome shifted. The great being's voice came again in light. "We will trust you, but one small group remains opposed. They fear you will dominate what you helped build." Yejin nodded slowly. "They are right to fear. Power is dangerous. But we will prove ourselves, not with weapons, but with our actions." Inho stepped forward. He turned to the nearby virant. "Let us help heal your wounds. Let us tend your living structures. As you tend ours, let us build together." His words hung in the air, charged with hope. The assembly was quiet. The living city seemed to hold its breath. Then, from among the dissenters, a figure emerged. Its light was sharp, red-tinged, and its vine limbs twisted in tension. It stepped close, distance shrinking. Inho took a slow breath and did not step back. Yejin raised her tablet again. The being pulsed strongly, projecting a jagged pattern. Yejin's translator worked hard. "Your kind destroyed the old world. How do you know you will not do it again?" Inho's voice was gentle. "We cannot erase what happened, but we returned not to rebuild a throne, but to make amends." The being paused, its glow dimming. The ground vibrated softly. The other virant waited. Then, very slowly, the sharpness of its light softened into a golden hue. It nodded. The vine limbs supporting it relaxed. The barrier of tendrils around the dissenters drew back. A murmur of light passed through the assembly, a wave of cautious acceptance. The city itself seemed to breathe in relief. Yejin closed her eyes, putting her palm to the ground. The living floor under her hand pulsed gently, in time with her heart. She whispered, "We will not betray you." Inho placed his hand next to hers. The pulses under both hands combined, forming a rhythm that felt like a promise. High in orbit, Jinwoo watched the light patterns on his monitor. He saw tendrils lowering, structures relaxing, the city becoming calm again. He exhaled deeply. Minessio placed a hand on his arm. He said, "They trusted us today, but trust is fragile." Minessio nodded. "Yes, but we started. That matters." Back on the planet, the great virant being drifted forward. It extended a vine limb, gently touching Inho's shoulder. Inho bowed his head in respect. Yejin also lowered hers. The being pulsed a soft spiral of light. Yejin matched the spiral on her tablet. The words came slowly. "Then let this be a new cycle, a cycle of shared life, shared memory, and shared growth." Tendrils around them glowed softly, weaving together into arches. The living city responded, its structures shifting into welcoming forms. Yejin's eyes filled with tears of joy. Inho gave her a small, steady smile. She squeezed his hand. The assembled virant moved side by side with the humans in a silent dance of life. The ground hummed, the air pulsed, and the city glowed with renewed warmth. In that moment, under living arches of vine and light, a treaty was born, not one written on paper, but grown in life. Later, Jinwoo and Minessio came down in a shuttle to join Inho and Yejin. As they landed, they felt the soft pulse under their feet. The virant greeted them, their forms bending gently in welcome. Jinwoo stepped out, breathing the alien but living air. He placed his hand on a glowing vine. It wrapped around his finger softly. He looked at Yejin, then at the great being, then at Inho. He said, We are honored to walk with you as partners. The Virant leader's glow brightened. It shifted into a spiral of light that echoed the symbol Yejin had used so often. The translation came: partners in life, partners in healing. Min Seo stepped forward, tears in her eyes. She said, "My people fled this world centuries ago. Now we return not to take, but to give." The Virant assembly pulsed in response. The city around them seemed to exhale in relief, like a great organism at peace. That night, under the living sky, Yejin, In-Ho, Jinwoo, and Min Seo stood together with the Virant. The air was soft, the glow warm. The vine limbs formed arches above them. Bioluminescent tendrils curled in slow patterns. Yejin closed her eyes, touched her chest, and whispered, "We have come home." In-Ho nodded, his voice quiet. "Yes, and we will stay. We will build new roots." Jinwoo placed a hand on her shoulder. "And we will protect this new home." Min Seo smiled through tears. "This is more than we ever hoped for." In the living city, the Virant pulsed in gentle harmony. The alliance was fragile, but real. The humans had returned after 3,000 years, not to avenge, but to heal. And as the violet and green lights of the Virant city glowed around them, the first seeds of a new future were planted. The morning light on Avernus Prime was soft and strange, filtered through bio vines that glowed faintly. On the ground beneath the domed city, Yejin and In-Ho stood together, breathing in the living air. Their bond with the Virant was still new. The treaty had been made, but building a future would not be easy. Jinwoo stepped off the shuttle and followed Min Seo through a pathway of living tendrils that formed a gentle tunnel. The Virant guided them quietly, their glowing arms bent in greeting. The air hummed softly, like the quiet song of a giant creature. As Jinwoo walked, he felt as though he were inside someone's heart. Min Seo looked around, her eyes curious. This place it lives, not just built, grown. She reached out to touch a vine arching over her. It pulsed under her fingers. It's as if the city breathes. "Yes," Jinwoo agreed. "It is alive, and we must learn how to help it, not harm it." They entered the inner chamber again. The Virant leader was waiting, glowing gently in the living light. Around it, other beings gathered. Some showed brighter colors, others softer. The great dome above whispered in quiet waves. Yejin stepped forward, holding her tablet. "We want to help you heal more than just land," she said. "We want to help heal what was lost, memory, life balance." In-Ho stood beside her. He felt the weight of their promise. "We will work. We will build with you." The Virant leader's glow shifted in thought. Then it projected a spiral pattern into the air. Yejin's tablet translated. "We accept again, but building is not easy. Some wounds run deep." One of the nearby Virant beings pulsed lightly, and its vine limbs moved in a slow dance. Yejin watched, then asked, "Can we begin with the places that are weak? The broken parts of your city?" The leader nodded. It stepped aside, and a few other beings moved forward. They led Jinwoo, Yejin, In-Ho, and Min Seo through a corridor of living fiber. The walls breathed, bending in and out like gentle waves. The light shifted in colors of green, blue, and soft violet. As they walked, Min Seo whispered, "I did not expect this to be like repairing a living thing. I thought we would negotiate trade, but not gardener." "That is what they are," Jinwoo said. "They are gardeners of life." Yejin's scanner beeped softly. She knelt down where the living fiber met the floor. "Here," she said, "this part is weak. Energy readings are low." The vine wall under her hand was thin, almost frail, as though it had been worn. A Virant being beside her touched the same spot. Its glow intensified for a moment. Yejin smiled. "Thank you." They realized this place had been damaged, perhaps through misuse or long age, or perhaps by forces they did not yet know. The humans and Virant would have to work together to heal it. In-Ho took out a small device, one they had brought for studying biostructures. He placed it on the living fiber. The device hummed and collected data. The Virant around him watched, curious but patient. Suddenly, from deeper in the structure, a tremor ran through the ground. The fiber walls pulsed dangerously, as though startled. A few of the virant beings stiffened, their tendrils trembling. In-Ho and Jinwoo both looked up. The virant leader raised a limb. Its glow turned sharp, then soft, then resolved. The translation came. There is a danger, an inner sickness. Not all damage is old. Some is new. Yejin's heart pounded. Sickness? She repeated. What kind of sickness? The leader's glow pulsated in a sad rhythm. It projected another symbol. Tangled spirals, jagged at the edges. On Yejin's tablet, she typed, "Some of our living structures are corrupting. Some parts grow in pain." Min-Seo frowned. Corruption. That means parts of your city could die, or worse. Jinwoo spoke softly. "We will help you. We will do whatever we must." The leader nodded. Slowly, then it wove a path for them, deeper into the dome. The living floor vibrated underfoot. Tendrils reached out gently, guiding them, offering support. They entered a large chamber. The space was more dim than the inner halls. The bioluminescent fibers here were pale, weak. Several virant beings gathered in corners, their glow dull. They did not look hostile, just tired and in pain. Yejin knelt, setting her scanner again. The readings confirmed life energy was low. The fibers seemed stressed, decaying in some places, but still alive. She swallowed. This is bad. This place is dying. In-Ho knelt beside her, touching a faint vine. We need to apply a healing protocol. Something that can revive, not destroy. He looked at the humans' biotech packs. We brought bioregeneration tools. We can try. The virant beings watched. One of them approached, its glow dim but steady. It extended a vine limb, touching one of the weaker fibers. The contact glowed softly. Yejin used a device to send a regulated dose of a bio-compound they had designed, a gentle, regenerative serum that encouraged cell growth without being aggressive. The fiber hummed in response. The color of the vine shifted, from pale to gentle green. Pulses grew stronger. In-Ho helped, carefully focusing the tool. The humans worked slowly, letting the virant join in. The living structure shivered, then sighed in waves, as if breathing a long breath of relief. Min-Seo stood back, watching. "They are letting us help," she said quietly. "They trust us more than I thought was possible." Jinwoo nodded. "Yes, but we must not fail. This trust, it is fragile." They continued working, healing one portion after another. The living city responded, slowly regaining strength. The fibers thickened, glowed brighter, vibrated with renewed energy. The virant beings around them pulsed too, their lights brighter, more even. Suddenly, a distant tremor ran through the chamber. It was smaller this time, but enough to cause concern. A wall of vine arches shifted, splitting open. Through the gap, In-Ho saw a darker corridor, one they had not explored. The leader being approached them. Its glow was soft but firm. It projected a pattern, a jagged spiral crossed by a straight line. Yejin read, "That way is dangerous. Corruption flows deeper. But you may go if you wish." Yejin exchanged a look with In-Ho and Jinwoo. She nodded. "We must. We can't heal everything blind. We must understand where the sickness comes from." They moved toward the dark corridor. The virant beings behind them stayed, their lights forming a guiding arch. The deeper they went, the darker it grew, but not lifeless. The vines and fibers here were alive, but twisted. Their glow was uneven, flickering. In-Ho held his tool ready. Yejin held her scanner. Jinwoo carried a small defensive device, not lethal, but enough to defend if needed. Min-Seo carried a comm unit. They walked slowly, every step careful. As they advanced, Yejin's scanner measured waves of life energy that were erratic, diseased. The readings were chaotic, surges, dips, decay. She frowned. This is not just decay. It's an infection of life energy itself. In-Ho swallowed. "Infection of living structure?" he asked softly. "That's alien even to me." They came to a large chamber where the fibers coiled and twisted. The vine walls had grown, and some parts looked malformed. The ground pulsed, but in short, broken beats. A group of virant beings stood inside, but their lights flickered weakly. They seemed prisoners of this corruption. One of the corrupted beings turned, its glow jagged and painful. It extended a vine limb toward Yejin, not in threat but in pain.